Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority. And may we use in our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. All right, we are now going to start our first public comment portion. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone at all? Very good, thank you. Madam Clerk, first agenda item, please.
In the Utilities Department, resolution approving specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $403,000 for the 2022 large meter replacement project number 455W and advertising for bids for the same. Bid opening March 9th, 2022.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution certifying unpaid water and sewer sums and administrative charges to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities, Sewer Operating Fund and Project Fund 596, Lakeshore Trunk Sewer Rehabilitation Project 438S Phase 1.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution awarding the Scale House Point of Sale System Upgrade, items 1, 7 through 10, to Paradigm Software LLC for the Lake County Solid Waste Facility.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and Lifeline Incorporated and Fair Housing Resource Center Incorporated for the implementation of Emergency Rental Assistance Program 2 funds.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? Anyone wanted to comment on that? Or come on up. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to answer any questions you might have on this program. And ERAP 2 is slightly different than the first round of Emergency Rental Assistance Program funds in that we can provide assistance to those who've had a hardship, but not a COVID-related hardship. The current way that things are happening with ERAP 1, things have picked up incrementally, and we hope to use funds that we have on hand to increase the marketing on that, continue the focus on ERAP 1 since it has a shorter time frame for expenditure, and use the ERAP 2 funds for the 2025 end date and really carry things through and stabilize the households. Since the program started, the first quarter, we only had 56 people make it through the process. 41 of them were very low income. That's people making 30% of income and below. And that expended $212,800. The second quarter that reported on at the end of 21, there was a total 250 households that got housing counseling, 150 that got financial assistance, and $760,000 out the door. In just January alone, there were 167 calls for assistance. Fair Housing referred 133 of those to Lifeline, and 75 of those were funded at a rate of $369,000. So you can really see how this is picking up. I do look forward to increasing our marketing, helping the Lake County government and our partners have a different way and different contacts so we can really broaden our outreach. So I look forward to that.
Very good, and I think this discussion worth having is the disbursements of funds, Fair Housing, striking that balance between stopping fraud and actually serving the people who are legitimately in need.
Yes.
As I understand, one of their procedural efforts was they did stop with the online because we were getting people from other countries applying and just gumming up the works.
Yes, because
it was brutal.
It was brutal. Some of those that were trying fraud were so obvious and so diligent in their annoying phone calls. Oh my goodness. So.
Yes, I understand they were very demanding, and that squeaky wheel sometimes just gets the check, and trying to claw back those dollars is not an easy thing, but one of the consequences of that is not being able to expend the money at a pace that the federal government is happy with. There are some, speaking of clawbacks, the federal government saying, well, if you can't spend it fast enough, send it back to us. They don't seem to have that same diligence for checks and balances and fraud prevention, although they would hold us ultimately responsible. They're reckless abandon in some regards.
Well,
my word's not yours, of course.
Thank you, sir. And the reallocation, they are using that term, and those funds that have been taken back by Treasury have been reallocated to those other jurisdictions that have a higher rental mix, have a higher low-income mix, and maybe we're not as blessed as Lake County and being not hit as hard by COVID. We've suffered for sure, but other places perhaps have suffered more. And I am looking forward to more contact with the courts also to continue eviction diversion and possibly get some data to see how these funds have impacted that entire process. So it's about building relationships and just continuing to make Lake County better.
And then this next round of funds does not require the COVID nexus.
Hardship.
Is there any retroactivity to that? So people who were not eligible previously could be retroactive or looking forward? Where is that? How does that work?
What I'll ask both of the partner offices to do is to identify those that were refused based on their lack of COVID hardship and reach out to them initially. The period covered still goes back to that March of 2020 when things kicked off. So there's a strong possibility of expenditure very quickly.
Okay, that was one of the, I hate to say this, it's about as clear as mud. I think that's a legal definition there, Mr. Hackman?
Correct.
And it is frustrating that we're not getting clear guidance, but to your point though, if that's the window of availability and eligibility, I guess we could interpret it that way.
We will use what we can.
Excellent, excellent. Gentlemen, any questions for Mary? Very good, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Excellent, as always.
Okay. If you want me to, I'm up for the next one too, if you have any questions on that.
If you want to stand by, I think that's just the actual
it's
allocation of funds, but sure, we can, if you want to stand by. So if there's
simple.
nothing further on this item, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes, thank you.
Resolution authorizing execution of agreements between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and various entities and organizations for the fiscal year 2021 Home Investment Partnership Program funds.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion, the floor is back to you.
Okay. These are pretty standard. We've been working with these same entities, and it's not an eviction prevention, it's getting people in the door with security deposits, providing subsidy either for seniors, persons with disabilities, physical, or persons with disabilities, mental. And also Lifeline has a clever program where they help people who are completing their schooling, a career training opportunity, and helping them make rent during that time frame when things can get a little tight. And it's continuing some of the things we have been doing. If I can retro back for just a second to the previous, there is an ad campaign going on presently, and thank you to Commissioner Pleshnik. He's the next round of interview. Commissioner Hammercheck did the first. We do have the 15-second clip that's been airing and the 30-second clip that's been airing on WKOAC that we'll plan to embed someplace within the county system so more people can view and make that connection. So. All right.
Anything, gentlemen? As always, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $3,688,404.64.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $1,181,060.04.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing and decreasing appropriations for various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring appropriations within various non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Very good. All right, moving on to departmental reports. Utilities, Randy.
No report today, Commissioner.
Very good, thank you, sir. Job and Family Services, Suzanne.
I'm following Randy's lead and also have no report today,
Very
Commissioners.
good, thank you, ma'am. All right, County Administrator Jason Boyd.
This will be a popular report. I just want to wish my Cincinnati Bengals good luck in the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Wow. Wow.
I move we strike those comments.
So going back to Job and Family Services, that Jobs Ohio training program, does that go with any executives by chance? Okay, on that note, all right, moving to Madam Clerk.
Yes, I wanted to mention that the next Commissioners meeting is going to be on next Thursday, February 17th, here at 10 a.m.
Very good, thank you, ma'am. Legal.
No reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to old business. Do we have any old business to come before the board? Any new business? Very briefly, we did have I love the name of the committee, JEDI Committee, Jobs, Economic Development, and Infrastructure with the County Commissioners Association. One of the topics had to do with legislation before the House currently that has to do with utilities. And, our one resolution where we were putting some of the delinquent unpaid balances onto taxes. Right at the moment they're discussing some language that would require the creation of a grievance board and a number of steps for villages and cities that operate municipal water and wastewater systems. The concern is that it would at some point translate over to counties. It would almost make it impossible to hold a ratepayer accountable for not paying their bills, and it would cause a tremendous degree of hardship for putting the unpaid amounts onto a tax duplicate of a property owner. So the resulting unpaid balance would then get spread across the entire rate-paying base, therefore raising the rates to everyone else. Anyway, with that said, one of the nuances is that since Madison Village and Lake County are working towards the transfer, that would almost immediately tie Lake County to that. We'd be one of the unique counties. So, you know that old saying, no good deed goes unpunished? Here we go again. So if we have any thoughts how to handle the legislature, I look over at my colleague here. Our County Commissioners Association is working to make sure that this legislation either gets modified or dies a peaceful death. But we do need to keep a close eye on that, because that could directly impact actions such as the one we took here today. And I can get you additional information if there's any interest on that, but we'll keep watching that. So with that said, any other new business?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Sounds like this legislation is a trap. Some of these delinquent debts can be the size of a small moon.
Oh, yeah?
And this is not the legislation we're looking for.
Has it
Wow.
passed yet?
I'm sorry, the Star Wars reference there, I just have to get that out of my system for just a moment. Oh, system? Huh? I'm sorry, you were saying it has not passed.
This is just a bill under consideration.
Yes, it is getting, going through the process, but we're trying to intervene very early on before it gets any traction because of the potential flaws. One of the discussion points were malicious tenants who on their way out just turn on all the faucets and water just runs, one running up the bill into potentially damaging the property when you plug up all the drains. So those types of malicious acts would be very difficult to collect under the language of the current model. And I do believe, Sheriff, did you have something you want to add, sir?
I just want to do an update for citizens. I just came back from the National Sheriff's Conference, Winter Conference, and I want to update on some of the issues that the sheriffs are doing at the legislative level. First topic discussed down there was immigration, and everybody looks at immigration as people coming across the border, which has its own issues, but an issue that affects us here in Lake County is the drug cartels. The drug cartels are moving heavily into the United States, trafficking not only marijuana, but more importantly, fentanyl, heroin, cocaine throughout the United States. So a lot of their routes come up the western part of the United States and across northern United States. And we have a major Interstate 90 that's moving through, and so a lot of discussion on how to locate drug cartels, because they are establishing themselves in neighborhoods throughout the United States. Very violent groups, the four major drug cartels. But we work with Stone Garden, which so we get federal grants that help us to work on drugs coming through Lake County and prostitution related to that, and trafficking of human individuals through that. So we did talk about, because we've got reduced in our terms of our grants, so I talked with congressional leaders and with people on the board about how to increase our grants for Stone Garden, and so we're working on that. Second topic was bail reform, and national sheriffs believe in bail reform. They think it is important, for impoverished people to have access to reasonable bail or to get out of jail. But they talked a lot about the issue of judicial discretion needs to be tied into bail reform. So what we're seeing in the major cities, where someone can kill somebody and be out of jail 5 minutes later, we don't want to see that happening. And so we talked about bail reform. We also talked about police reform. And there's talk of changing legislation where certain requirements are made of police nationwide that are just at the federal level. Well, if you have federal grants if you have house federal inmates, those all tie into your access to federal grants. So the national sheriffs are working with them in terms of trying to have reasonable reform that's clarified, because it affects Lake County in terms of how much money we can get through grant funding here. And the final one is on Medicaid Medicare. If you have that and you're arrested and put in jail, you lose those benefits. So what we're talking about is national sheriffs that pre-trial, pre-conviction, you don't lose those benefits, because they can be very costly for jails right here in Lake County in terms of paying for those medical benefits. So those are issues that we're dealing with. They affect Lake County voters, so it's important that we have access at those things.
Question for you. So some of the discussions among your group now, Lake County, we're unique in a very positive way. The County Commissioners Association acknowledges Lake County as one of the few counties that has a strong working relationship with our sheriff and the overall sheriff's department. One of the things recently we talked about was unfunded mandates, compliance requirements, having means to comply, but then you get an agency that takes back, such as the NIVERS, taking back the manual entry, pointing, oh, it has to be electronic, even though we have a pathway to comply with that before that could come online, unfunded, I might add. They pull back the manual system. Was there any discussion about the unfunded mandates and all these things in order to qualify for the various grants? Did they get
There is discussions on that in the tie-ins to federal grants, but it's very dangerous in terms of really looking at the particulars of language of bills. So someone might see this and say, well, sheriffs aren't supporting that. It might not be the whole idea. It might be the hidden language. Well, if you don't do this, you can't get federal grants, and that's a lot of major money that comes back to Lake County.
Gotcha. Well, and with that, I do want to say thank you for your excellent communications, both here and basically behind the scenes. And as I hit the microphone, I'll just put the pen down. But no, thank you, though.
Thank you.
It's very important. It keeps us informed and allows us to act accordingly, and it definitely helps with the budgeting process.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything for our sheriff? Gentlemen? Thank you, sir. Okay, so if there's no other new business, moving on to our second public comment portion. Do we have anyone wishing to address the board? Yes, John.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive, Painesville Township. Yes, Commissioner, you sort of spoke on something earlier I was going to talk about. You know, we have heard about Jobs and Family Services. That was $3.8 billion in fraud and so forth. And I think we'd be foolish to think, you know, fraud occurs at all levels, federal, state, county, and it works its way down. And we, as taxpayers, give a lot of money to various organizations. Hopefully, and I mean this sincerely, hopefully they are doing their job. And, you know, like I said, you'd be foolish to think there isn't fraud at every level. And it does happen. We all know that. So the thing about it is, hopefully they are watching over the taxpayer dollars. So I hope that, and today there's just the two on there, Fair Housing and Lifeline, but I'm talking about any time that somebody's receives taxpayer dollars. And then to finish on our sheriff, and I thank him for that, for giving that talk about, you know, I always say transparency is good for everybody. And just like fentanyl, you know, the Border Patrol says they only get about 5% of the fentanyl coming across the border. 5%. That's all they capture. And, you know, I've been working on immigration for over 20 years. And the thing about it is, it's like, you know, just like the Snow Gang, one of the cartels down there, they're just south of the border, and they lace everything with fentanyl and so forth, and pills, and you know it, and even marijuana they lace, and all this stuff, and it all comes up here because we have a lot of buyers up here, sadly, but that's what it really happens. So I'm glad. I mean, there's so much going on that we need to do. And our law enforcement has a lot of work, and I know Suzanne had mentioned a couple of meetings ago, it's possibly that her business would pick up, because I look at it this way, the more fraud we can get rid of, we can actually give more money to the people that really qualify and need it, you know? And that's all I'm looking for, is let's give the people that meet all the qualifications, give them more help. So that's, I think, would be a good thing for the taxpayer, and I could say taxpayer dollars well spent. Okay?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could just amplify my previous statement with fair housing, I think they should be commended. I know that could not have been an easy decision to focus on more face-to-face, more direct contact, rather than just blind, anonymous electronic submissions. I realize the electronic submissions would be, on the face of it, more efficient. You'd be able to push more money out. But they are, to your point, holding the line, making sure that the people who are entitled are receiving the funding, and the people who are not, they are being blocked. So it is it's a difficult balance to maintain. But to your point, yes, and I would like to again commend fair housing. You know, I regret that we have to be sending monies back, but as Marion pointed out, well, God willing, it's going to be allocated where it's needed. But spending it just for the sake of spending it, that's not what we're about. So thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't just talking about those two organizations. I was talking about any organization that receives
I
money.
that's a good example.
Yeah, and like I said, I was going to speak it out earlier, but I thought I'll just wait to the end. But has your workload gone up in Jobs and Family Services?
I don't have all of the statistics for recently, but what I could say, if I may, about Job and Family Services, we do have staff members at Job and Family Services whose roles are specifically to investigate fraud. Yeah. And several of those staff members are going to be going to a training, hopefully within the next few months. We obtained some grant funding to have them go to this training to learn additional ways to investigate fraud. So it's definitely something that we are well aware of at Job and Family Services. We have staff members devoted to researching that issue for all of the applications that come in for public assistance.
Thank you for what you do. And like I said, sadly, this is what our world has turned into, and we do what we have to do. All right? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President,
Sir.
Two things. First, in response to the sheriff's presentation, we had our Narcotics Board meeting, which the commissioners have assigned me to attend. And it was interesting to hear that Cleveland and the greater Cleveland area of which we live in is experiencing record-breaking drug busts, millions of dollars in cash, enormous amounts of drugs, and they're all cartel related. So we're certainly seeing that locally, and that is a major concern. But I also would like to put former Mayor Dave Anderson, the head of our Lake Development Authority, on the spot and ask if he might be willing to come up, because we have some pretty exciting news that came out in the last few days. We have Lincoln Electric actually coming to Willoughby, and a little update there I think would be exciting for us to have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, what we've been able to ascertain is that the Weston building, which was built on the airport site, and it's a beautiful building, and has been sitting there waiting for a tenant to come up, and we've all been a little antsy about when is that going to happen. And just yesterday, it was reported that a division of Lincoln Electric will be moving into that space, taking the entire space. We don't have any information yet on the number of jobs, but this will be a subsidiary of Lincoln that will be moving in, but bringing manufacturing jobs to Lake County. So we don't have the information on how many yet, but it's a large space. I'm sure they wouldn't have taken it if they didn't have a lot of jobs that they're going to move in there. So we're very excited for that.
Well, Mayor, this is a really exciting moment for Willoughby and for Lake County, and I think it shows very strongly that we are open for business.
It does. Thank you.
That's a quick question. Will there be a nexus with airport operations that isn't moving in there in part because of the easy access?
We don't have any of that information either. So we're still kind of waiting. We got our feelers out everywhere, and we're still waiting to get more specific information on that.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Anything else? Sir.
Thank you very much.
Adam Lutke with the Health Department. Ron Graham unfortunately could not be here today. He wanted me to mention though that the community health assessment went out to the residents. And I know most of us do not like Big Brother, so don't view it as that way. What it does help us to do is to target what needs are in the community. It also helps us to alleviate redundancies and saves taxpayer money. And also illuminates any kind of upcoming trends that we see, again, for targeting of that kind of stuff. So, maybe it's diabetes, maybe it's something of that nature. So it allows us to react in a more precise manner instead of a broader net. So just want to mention that, and then also mention that the vaccination bus that we talked about before, they got hit in the recent windstorm, is almost back up and running. So we'll have that back out on the road, helping out the county wherever we can with that. So.
One that was clobbered by a dead tree.
Correct.
that the property owner would decline to cut down.
Act of God, as they say.
Oh, yes, yes. That one, goodness forbid, we wouldn't want to displace any birds or bats in the middle of winter.
These are the times we live in.
Sadly. So, I'm sorry, refresh my memory. I got distracted with my being a smarty pants. Your first point was...
the community health assessment, normally called the CHA. There's a chip in the CHA, but the CHA, the community health assessment, that's gone out. And again, it's to help us act more responsibly with taxpayer money, be able to target certain things, and help reduce redundancies a lot of times as well.
And to help the public, since we just recently came off of a census, this is the health district's version of the census.
Yes, it's more the health aspect of the county and what the county needs, and again, it's good for the county in general.
And that's just your way to tailor the services you provide to make sure that there's as little going unmet as possible.
Correct.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, anything for health district? Very good. As always, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing further. Oh, yes, ma'am. You are so polite.
I didn't want to stop up the operations.
No, you're doing wonderful. You are the poster girl for efficiency, so you're not going to come up any operations. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to just say two things. Becky Lynch, Lake County Recorder. I wanted to thank the News Herald for highlighting, catching. I'm a mom of three. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I have 3 kids. They're grown now. Brian was 18 months old when I brought home Dylan and Kelly. So Mike and I had 3 kids under a year and a half. So anyways, one of the old sayings for old moms is, catch your kids doing something good instead of always yelling at them for doing something bad. So that kind of hit me when the News Herald highlighted the county finding, that $1 million. It was a milestone, yes. It took 5 years, and I was very happy to do it. But it was just like, as a little, keep just trudging along and contributing, and that's the way it happened. The other thing is, you guys gentlemen may or may not be aware, but we have the Housing Trust Fund, which is half of my recorder fees of every filing that we do. And as of this year too, for Marion's purposes too, which you guys just passed today, Lake County has contributed over $5 million to Housing Trust Fund since my tenure in 5 years. So that contribution too helps the homeless, helps housing needs for the entire state. So I just wanted to let you know that. And thank you, News Herald, for the recognition, and you gentlemen too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anything?
Sure.
No? Very good. All right, moving on. There's nothing else to come before this board. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting into executive session. The purpose being real estate acquisition. There'll be no business to be conducted afterwards. And there you go. That's one way to deal with that call. So, such determination. He'll look good with a gavel in his hand someday. So, see?
Hello.
Please stand by. These are those little moments of fill in the blank.
Extended warranty?
I think you have the wrong number. This is the county line for the commissioner's office, so I don't think that this would
See, you're
relate to
seeing
the
real
courts.
time how these things go.
No, this is 2034. You dialed the wrong number.
There you go. And see, such professionalism and politeness.
Bye-bye.
See, he can be firm and gentle. Okay, now that we've gotten past that, so I will entertain a motion, I'll just repeat, to adjourn the meeting into an executive session, the purpose being real estate acquisition. There'll be no business to be conducted afterwards.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today.